Good evening, and welcome to the America First Abilene podcast. I'm Jason Wilson. I'm here with Chris Turner.
How's it going, y'all?
And we would like to remind you, please come join our group, America First Abilene, on Facebook.
Yep. And you can follow us on YouTube and Rumble under the same name.
Yes, indeed.
X.
On X too. Yeah, that's awesome. And a lot going on, a lot to talk about, both nationally and locally tonight. I think we are, Chris, where would you like to start tonight? I think we're going to talk about the Israeli takeover of the American military has been thwarted temporarily.
Yeah. So it's the NDAA is the bill in question, of course, that's going through. It passed the House. Every Republican but Thomas Massey voted for it in the House.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the Democrats were there was some big defectors, like Nancy Pelosi voted against it. But there was more because of the Israel thing, I believe. Well, maybe it's equally because of the SAVE Act. So what they did, as y'all know, we've been wanting the SAVE Act passed because all that is it's going to give, illegals can't vote. It's going to cut out a lot of the ability to cheat the elections and have as fair as they can be. Still not going to be perfect until you get back to paper ballots and one night voting and all that. But it does a lot of things to strengthen it. And they haven't been willing to, whatever you want to say. Definitely the Senate won't pass it. Hasn't been willing to. But now their new idea was we'll stick it on the NDAA, which all the rhinos and them love anyway, to pass that thing because it's going to increase the budget. I think it's another $1.5 billion to the war machine stuff, which is not good either. But that's typically what they do. So anyway, they said the SAVE Act, we're going to throw it in there. But the problem is this bill also has, it used to be 219, now it's Section 224, which is it's losing our sovereignty to Israel, is where they're going to have integration, they call it. But it's going to be a full-on, they'll have all our military secrets, everything.
The intelligence.
Yes, all of it. The data, our, stuff to spy on our citizens. Bottom line, it's a loss of sovereignty, and it's in there. So now people that actually want to pass the SAVE Act would also be voting to lose our sovereignty to Israel.
Right.
And it's a huge problem. But it got passed in the House, and it went to the Senate, and it got shot down in the Senate for now. But every Democrat voted against it, I think, in the Senate.
Yeah.
And then every Republican voted for it, which, again, the SAVE Act is good. The sovereignty, horrible. So the SAVE Act needs to be pulled out and rammed somewhere else, or this thing needs to be pulled out. And then we'll just have to hold our breath with the rest of the bad things in there, but they're not nearly as bad as this.
Right, that's how they operate. They have to put something great out there, and they hide something devious within it.
Right, but this is, that's typical Washington, D.C. stuff, but this, I'm telling you, it is horrible. The
integration.
Yes. We do not want that. Even the Pentagon came out and said that Israel is the number one spy person not to be trusted, and we're going to give them all that?
Right.
Why?
Gifting Donald Trump the golden pager.
Yeah.
That's a threat. That's an open threat.
Of course it is.
Because Israeli had a pager gate where they were putting pagers on people that exploded, and so they give Donald Trump this golden pager as kind of a, we can get you too threat.
Right.
It's unbelievable, really.
So to be clear, I think and I know I am for the SAVE Act,
sure,
but I am very against this thing and everything else in the NDA, honestly. But
to be clear, this is Section 219. They've moved it to 219.
Well, no, they moved it to 224 from 219.
Okay.
It was 219, and then too many people started talking about it, so they tried to move it. So when people look it up, it won't be there. 219 is not that.
Okay, I thought it was the other way around, but either way, it's been either 219 or 220.
Wherever it's at.
Yeah, it's the U.S.-Israeli integration, a plan that was authored, I guess, by Benjamin Netanyahu, basically.
100%. He literally thanked the author, the Republican who brought it to the House, said, "Thank you. This is great. This is exactly what we talked about while you were here." He wrote a whole letter. I wish. I mean, again, we did a whole thing on how bad this is, but it's in our last episode, Cam. So y'all never saw it.
Yeah, sorry about that. But
anyway, here we are, and it's bad. Trust us.
Yeah, that's a complete, what would result in a complete Israeli takeover of the U.S. military, where they already have a lot of what people say undue influence.
Yeah.
For decades, we've been warned that by people from the left and the right. It's a nonpartisan issue, and I think that's where Chris and I are trying to go. I think they use partisanship to divide us and get all this stuff pushed through. It's very interesting that Democrats happen to be on the right side of this issue. Just like data centers, Republicans are going to lose their butts if they don't get on the ball about American sovereignty and the people's right to live without giant, noisy, water-sucking data centers across the street from their homes. So, like Sid Miller, the outgoing ag commissioner, said that Republicans are going to face huge defeats coming up for missing the boat on this issue about data centers and Israel, frankly,
and THC.
Absolutely,
which we'll get into in a little bit. That one is another one that, and even the flock cameras. But there's a lot that Republicans need to figure it out quick, because they're on the wrong side of it. I actually had a conversation with Jay Hardaway, who's gonna. I'll get into that more in a minute, but he's running as our rep here in HD 71, at least on the Republican side, and he'll win because the Democrat can't win here.
Right.
But anyway, I had a long conversation with him, and I said that clearly. I was like, there's some real problems with this party. The THC, the data centers, the flock cameras, the Israel issue, all those are going to hurt them bad, and they need to wake up quickly. And that's coming from a precinct chair currently in Taylor County. So
right. You have to stand for something bigger than making the liberals mad or Donald Trump. Like, I think we are totally like this. It's a psyop where you got a movement that's patriotic. But what does that patriotism mean? I think Chris and I would agree it means America first.
100%. That's why we're doing this.
Exactly. It's not just a group. It's a political movement. Come join us, please. And, of course, we had the data center protester locally. Would you like to go ahead and talk about data centers for just a moment, like in general?
Well, I will say, Jason and I worked on an article that went in the Buffalo Gap paper for the July issue.
Yeah, sure.
And it was, it's in the July issue, and it got back on the front page. So this is what the front looks like. And then right here is how your local leadership sold you out in the data centers. And it goes all into the city council and the commissioner's court, and when their votes happen, and how much money is being spent or lost on the tax breaks. It's literally like $2 billion. But it's a full article. It starts on there, and it's all the way through on page 4. If you can see, it's a full page article right there. But get one, go check them out. You can get them at the United on 14th if you don't know where to get one.
That's the Buffalo Gap Roundup
yes,
news?
Yeah, and they're free. But anyway, just to go over some of the... So a lot of people are saying, oh, well, the data centers it's a national security matter. We're in a war with China to build them. No, we're not. They literally have 369 in China, and we have 700 being built or built already in Texas right now. And I don't count all the ones they want to build. And I think we have 4,500 nationally, and the next closest countries have 500. So it's not, and there's no national security matter right now. This is just gone way out of control, and the way they're building them, it's just taking resources and everything else from counties and farmland, and there's not really many good things about it other than the locals' leaderships are getting little payoffs here and there,
right,
that they can use for whatever. But it's so minuscule. We need to have a full-on moratorium and figure out what's really going on here, because a lot of the propaganda is exactly that. Well, for example, we hadn't even seen the increases really in the electric bill, and I got a $400 electric bill this month to pay. I can't even imagine what it'll be next year. 600, 500, I don't know. But when that comes, and then with the power lines, they're going to have to bring those big they call them dinosaur power lines or whatever, that and it's just horrible for everything. Like, I know so many landowners that are so against that. I will say the Taylor County Commissioners Court said they're against that in a resolution, but I don't see how you get all these 2 to 4 data centers that are within, 70 miles of us for sure, 50 maybe, however many there are. I don't see how you power that without all the lines, and then they're going to we, the consumers, are going to have to pay for that. That's the biggest thing.
Right.
And it doesn't even talk about all the actual water usage and stuff that we're already, Charles Perry, our senator here, said, hey, we got to come up with a plan or we're going to run out of water. And yet we got enough water for 700 data centers?
Absolutely not.
Right.
Well, and I think it's why we're proud. I think we need to talk a little bit about how Clyde rejected.
Yes. That was a win that a new data center and try to come in, and they just wanted to get a lease on the land so they could start the process to bribe the officials, and they hadn't even got that far. And a big amount I think it was about 50 people showed up out there and stood down. And then the county, one of the county or the council members came out and said, yeah, we listened to our people, we learned, and they don't want this here, and we are not ready for it either. So
absolutely,
it was a big win. I wish we had council members and stuff that would stand up for our interests like that, and we don't.
Right. We got to take action at the city council level.
I will say, to be in the interest of transparency, I had a conversation with Judge Crowley the other day at the Republican meeting, and me and Jason are welcome to go to his office and have a long talk with him about data centers. So we're going to do that.
Yeah.
And we'll get back to you on that because he's one of the ones that voted for it.
Right.
And in 2025, he wasn't there in 2021 when Judge Bowles did it initially, but we'll figure it out because I want us to see exactly why he voted for it and his reasoning, because I don't think it's going to change my mind. I want to give him that opportunity.
Yeah.
Whereas the other city council members are a bunch of, they're not going to change their mind. They're not going to sit down and talk to us either.
No.
So that's just a moot point. But we need to definitely, one of the things we're trying to do is build out an awareness on this and trying to get a group to stand up against these and any more, because this isn't the last data center they'll try to put in Abilene or around Abilene, right, or build onto the current ones that are out there. So we need to put up and stop that. And that's why there was the thing Saturday morning. Neither one of us were able to go to it.
Right.
And I guess you talked to somebody. What happened?
Yeah, I spoke to a person that attended. She said it was at Cal Young Park. Mm-hmm. And, it was supposed to be a national protest. So it was really kind of I'm not sure who put that on.
Yeah.
But anyway, so you can't really call it a grassroots protest. We're happy that one occurred. Congrats to get some people out to talk about this issue. But I did hear from my source there that, they were not very receptive. For example, Tammy Fogel attended, mm-hmm, and she did not get a warm reception. And as she left the rally, I think she reminded the attendees that they probably all voted for Ben Bailey, who said he would have voted for the data center.
Right. On camera.
Yeah. And she was the opposite. Tammy Fogel would not have.
Yes. She was against it.
A lot of people don't like Tammy. They think she is a religious zealot, and we've got a lot of liberals in this town. And listen, I don't want to ban books either. I'm kind of with you on your criticism of her for going after the public library. I think that was a little too far, in my opinion. I think as far as public schools, you don't need sex and you don't need that stuff in those. And I personally witnessed a book available to kindergartners in a local library. And so I took action covertly, mm-hmm, and alerted a couple city council members, and we got that book off the shelf. And it's about transgender children, again, available to kindergartners. So for all of you that think that Tammy is a complete nutcase and just a book banner, listen, I may be with you that she went a little too far, but she's certainly right about what was going on in these I witnessed it personally, and that's totally inappropriate. These are kindergartners. I mean, what the hell is going on here? And that book, thankfully, AISD came under scrutiny later, and they weren't able to have those kind of books on their shelves. So that's a win for Abilene.
Well, I will, as somebody who was there at the beginning of the fight at the public library, it was completely different. What we wanted was them basically sectioned out away from the children where they can't just get them easily when they're looking in the children's section. Which we were not saying get them out of the library necessarily.
Even Tammy wasn't.
No, none of us were at first.
Okay.
And that got turned into, they're banning books or whatever. No, they weren't. We literally were calling for, initially at least, the books to be
in their own section.
Or labeled in a way that parents would know, hey, I don't want my kid to see that. I won't let them.
That's the adult section or whatever.
Like they have for the Christian books in the public library, they have a cross on them. Mm-hmm. And we were saying we'll put a whatever on it, not necessarily a rainbow, but something that says, hey, this is it. And if you don't want your child to look at it, then don't grab that book.
Yeah.
But they couldn't do that. I think all the sexually explicit books should have been in a section where next to one of the librarians that you came up there, and if you're at a certain age, then I can check. Or if you want to say, hey, I want my kid to be able to go back there and look at them, okay.
Right.
But, that kind of like cigarettes are behind the stand in a you're not banning cigarettes. They just got
their own
there's
section.
A barrier. Right.
Yeah.
Which is a different issue. But anyway, we're getting off in the weeds about that. But
right. And that's my fault. I'm sorry. But my point is, I know I voted for Tammy Fogel in her.
So did I.
And so when I was under the impression still that she had gone too far, apparently she didn't. Everything, all that sounds reasonable to me, Chris. And I'm glad you had the firsthand information.
Well, that's where it started, at least. But anyway,
and I can certainly concur with her that there were bizarre selections for tiny children to read in schools. And so I trust Tammy more than anybody that I've seen in local politics lately, running at the level she ran for city council. And if you think that you need sexual books for children, they're having a hard time teaching them how to read and write. Let's not confuse the poor things anymore. Right. Kids don't want to hear that kind of crap anyway. They don't know what they're seeing. That's why I think it's almost, why would you have a kindergarten level book about transgender, man? Come on. Anyway, I was happy when I contacted that librarian months later. She told me that book was off the shelf. And not only that, but they were on a total hold. They could not order any new ones until they had some kind of a way to go through them, make sure they're appropriate. And I said, well, I'm sorry to make your life harder, but y'all shouldn't have had those books available and had me help you out in your library. At any rate, as far as the local getting back to the data center protest, and I believe it was the people behind SaveAbilene.com that were putting this thing on.
Yeah, I really don't know who is leading this thing yet over there.
Right. But we encourage you, please, to reach out to us. I mean, we're publishing articles about it and been talking about it, and we are serious about bringing unity on this. We need Republicans, Democrats, gays, straight, whatever the hell you are, come together on this. This issue is going to affect us all. And it may even affect our precious groundwater, which we don't want to pollute and we don't want to squander, on an intelligence apparatus that's going to end up spying on us, it looks like, more and more. So please, let's get together on the Abilene data center debacle and all the other data centers going up around here. Congratulations to the people of Clyde. Good job showing up and getting that one.
But make sure y'all stay on it so they don't try to come in the back door and do it again.
Yeah, because that's exactly what they did in Haskell County. It was voted out, and then they had another vote, and it went through. I guess they got to a couple of folks, if you know what I mean. And that's mainly to me. Oh yeah, Charlie Kirk material. The pretrial of Tyler Robison is currently taking place to see if they have enough evidence to take him to an actual trial.
Well, it's over with now, but the pretrial part of it. Now the judge said he's going to take up till September to decide if it goes, which I'm sure he'll come back sooner than that. But if you watch this thing, look, Charlie getting murdered was one of the worst things that's happened to conservatives in a long time. It's terrible. We were full Charlie fans. I'm still a Charlie supporter. Not so much what Turning Point has become after that.
No.
But that's a different issue completely than this kid, Tyler Robison, that's what the trial is for. Because that's the one they said killed him with the 30-06. and the magic unbreakable neck and all the other stuff. But if you actually watch this pretrial and the evidence they brought forth, first of all, apparently there's a law in Utah. I'm just being facetious, but apparently there's a law in Utah that every single camera has to be iPhone 1 through a fishbowl quality. It's just the worst camera footage I've ever seen everywhere. I don't know if the footage is being made worse, so you don't know what it is or what the case is. But every footage they had, you can't tell who it is. You can't tell if it's Tyler Robison or the Abominable Snowman, or you have no idea who it is. But there were so many inconsistencies, and I'd love to go over a few of those. But I don't know how many you know of, but I have a few on my phone here that were just some of the bigger
story
ones.
that he takes a shot, then disassembles the weapon, and then reassembles it.
Well, and so according to their evidence, he got on the roof with it down his pants, is what they're claiming.
Yeah.
Disassembled because it still wouldn't work. And the footage of the person, I don't know who it was, but whoever was going up the stairs with a limp, and then at one point they switched legs they're limping in.
Yes.
But nonetheless, let's say there was a gun, allegedly. You have to believe that he got up to the roof, took the gun out of his pocket, assembled it, sat down, zeroed it in, got the shot where he wanted it, waited for Charlie to say the right thing, and then shot him all within 1 minute.
Right.
That's their timeline. That's the government's timeline.
Yes.
First of all, that's even for a top of the line sniper for the U.S. Army, that's almost impossible.
Mm-hmm.
If not impossible. And then he did that and then ran and jumped off the roof back into fishbowl coverage where we can't see who it is. You can't see a gun in his hand at all, whoever it is. But it was just like, and then at one point, then the last day of the trial, they had a bunch of the TPUSA influencers, Benny Johnson, Brandon Tatum. What's the other guy I said?
Benny Johnson's the only one.
Anyway, there's 4 or 5 of them. All of them. Oh, well, we just saw the footage in 4K, and he could see his face, and he shot him, and that's it. We saw the moment he shot him. No, you didn't. There's no footage that shows a muzzle flash or anything.
Yeah.
And you can't see who it is. It literally is a black blob that's blurry as hell.
Yeah.
You can't see anything. So, Nick, we don't know who it is, but they did not see it. The problem with they try to come out and push that narrative. Well, there was 2 or 3 young kids that had camped overnight. They were in there, so they got to go inside. And they said, no, this is not only is this the same footage we've already seen, but it's the same blurry footage that you can't see anything. And there is no shot being taken. You can see somebody crouching down. You don't know if it's a man, a woman, a Sasquatch, whatever. But there's someone that gets on the roof and crouches down, but there's no moment that you can see a shot at all. And you definitely can't see anybody's face.
Right.
But, so anyway.
Then you got Tyler Robinson supposedly confessing to his boyfriend after he's already in police custody.
Yeah.
Using a cell phone while you're in custody. I don't think that's commonly done.
That's one of the many. So that one, I guess the timeline is he turned himself in because they were going to shoot him. At that point, he was trying to save his life. And he went and turned himself in. And an hour and a half later, a confession gets put on the Discord. You know, his little, what do you call those? Chat engine things, the Discord. But it's more of a gaming thing. Mostly it's what Discord's for, but it's a server. And yeah, there's almost no chance that he could have posted that live from in the play. And let's just say, I don't think he did it. But if he did, why would he be saying, hey, guys, it was me, I confess. I did this, this, and this, while in there telling the police, I want a lawyer, I have nothing to say to you, I'm not confessing to anything. So that doesn't make any sense at all. But none of this does. So here's just a few, I'll just read them off, because if you want to stop me on something, of course, the influencers from the very start, oh, there's overwhelming evidence. Oh, it's a mountain of evidence. And
I'm not sure about you people out there watching, but if you've been following the Charlie Kirk case, have you been like me and your feed is just inundated with pro TPUSA, anti-Candace?
Yeah.
It's either pro it's like it switches algorithms every once in a while, and it sometimes give me pro stuff, but mostly anti-Candace, pro TPUSA, which, I guess the organization stood a chance when Charlie was head of it, but after his public assassination, they went south. They went against him on Israel, the war in Iran, and of course he called Beyonce a terrible person, I believe, and then they had her on the stage, and Ben Shapiro headlining America Fest, I believe.
Yeah.
And Ben Shapiro hated Charlie Kirk. They were not friends. So people understand.
That's another thing that came out, even though they were very famously not friends. Ben Shapiro said the other day and got caught up in a lie saying, oh, well, as soon as they got him shot and they threw him in the back of the vehicle to take him to the hospital, while driving, his security team en route was on the phone with my security team giving me updates all the way.
Yeah.
Which makes no sense. And if you actually go through all their statements, the people in the car have already said what they were doing. There was at no point that they could have. They didn't even call the hospital ahead of time saying, hey, we've got a gunshot wound victim coming in, get ready. They didn't even do that. So they're going to call Ben Shapiro and say, hey, Charlie shot. Here's what's going on.
What in God's name is that?
That's not feasible. Here's some other things, though, that stand out. Of course, they had footage of a blurry car with no license plate and no nothing. And they said, this is Tyler's car that he showed up in. Look, here he is showing up here. Here he's driving. First of all, if you actually look at that footage, what you can see of the car, and then you look at actual pictures of his actual car, the front end doesn't look the same. There's no real deal. The only footage of that car that was recorded on a Ring camera by this couple, and the woman who saw it said, yeah, I saw the car, and 3 people were in it, including one bald-headed guy. That's not Tyler Robison. He has hair.
Where was Blake Neff that day?
Yeah, that's been a meme on the deal.
For those of you who don't know, Blake Neff is one of the co-hosts of, they still call it the Charlie Kirk Show.
Yeah.
Where they trash Candace Owens. Mm-hmm. And basically, I think isn't that an Israeli company that... Yeah,
that came out too. Well, Brad Pascal is the head of that whole network and he is literally a registered with FARA, an agent for Israel. And now he's in control of all that. So, of course.
Right.
But, so other things that were found in the evidence. Now, the prosecution didn't volunteer this information, but the defense found it, that there was a .223 round bullet found on another roof that was not obviously the 30-06. And he said, is it true? Oh, yeah, there was one, is what the agent in charge said. Mm-hmm. Well, they said, well, what happened? Well, we didn't secure the scene. We didn't think it was anything. An officer dropped it. Sure.
Like cops he said he cycled his rifle. So a cop just sits there and ejects a bullet from his gun and just leaves it there on the roof.
Yeah. Right. And then there's no further investigation on the roof or anything else.
My God.
Don't look over here, basically. And a .223 round would be like in like an AK or what's the other one that's just like that? High powered rifle.
Sorry.
I went brain dead, but the point is the type of that could shoot Charlie like that would be from that round. That makes sense. Oh, and by the way, this is one of the best parts was when they got on the roof, the cop that got up there, as soon as he got on the roof, his camera died.
Yes,
so
of course. Yeah.
There's no footage of them when they got on the roof where allegedly Tyler did all that.
Uh-huh.
And he started his shift like 30 minutes before that. So tell me how the battery died on it.
Sure. Very convenient.
More is lying about the high definition video. I already covered that. The Discord confession, we covered that. It was an hour and 45 minutes in. Lance Twiggs, who's the alleged furry trans boyfriend of Tyler, although when he actually was doing his recorded thing and in other pictures, he really doesn't look anything like they portrayed him in the little furry costume.
Right.
So he has a deeper voice than either one of us. But I don't know. And the point is, Lance Twiggs said, this is key. They never talked about Charlie Kirk.
Yeah.
They very rarely talked about politics. and they had no real talks about LGBTQ rights or issues.
Yeah.
And so they, as a gay couple, never talked about any of that, but he got triggered enough to go kill Charlie.
Yeah, and that's what kind of gets me. If Lance Twiggs is in on this setup of Tyler Robinson, why would he even say that? Wouldn't he try to build him up as some kind of a trans activist?
I don't know. Maybe he slipped up and told the truth there.
Yeah.
I don't know. And so this is another key. They talked about the DNA, allegedly, that they found.
Yeah.
Well, on the towel, which that's not hard to bring a towel from the house, and on the gun, and where was it? On the screwdriver, they had Tyler's DNA was on all that, and Lance Twiggs' DNA was on all that. And then the Dremel is what it's called, where they engrave into a gun or into the bullets.
Yeah.
Well, the Dremel, Lance admitted it was his, and he was the only one on there. They couldn't even say Tyler's was ever touched that Dremel, but his DNA was all over it. So that's interesting. What else?
Can I just mention the contractor went public? That
yes.
For those of you who don't know about the Charlie Kirk assassination, the area where he was taken to heaven was excavated. The crime scene was dug up and concrete poured in and filled in to cover it up within a couple of days of the assassination. So that's basically the destruction of a crime scene. Yeah.
Which is a very fishy, and that was, you said, the FBI and the governor is the one who called for that.
Right.
Why you would ever do that to a crime scene doesn't make any sense unless you're trying to cover up something.
And they do say that if it was a small explosive device, many people are saying, and if you watch the footage carefully, his shirt flies up in an inexplicable manner. I am not putting the microphone explosive past being a conclusion there. I think it's a possibility.
Definitely. It's more likely, I'll say it's more likely than a 30-06.
Yeah.
Shot him right here in the neck and it stopped. That didn't happen.
And what did we learn about there was basically a small manufacturing facility in Tennessee, about 16 employees, where they build these small explosive devices. 1 month after Kirk's murder, that building explodes and kills everyone there. And it is completely destroyed. Like there's nothing left of that building.
Yeah. There's just a few more points I want to hit real quick, and then I'll be done with this one. One of the things Lance says, they all said, well, you could recognize those were Tyler's shoes, the pair of Converses. Mm-hmm. Well, if you look into it more, Lance has pretty much the same pair almost exactly.
Yeah.
So that doesn't show anything.
No.
Lance has access to his Discord and his phones and his computer, all that already. That's admitted to. So he had access to all that, and he could have done this little exchange with himself, for that matter. And then the letter, the confession letter that was under the keyboard, allegedly, again, Lance found it, according to the text messages, where we don't know where those even came from, but if you actually look at that letter in his handwriting, there's a lot of similarities between the two. I'm not saying everything's perfect. It looks almost like somebody took the letter and was trying to write different, but you could tell in certain, like the S's were the same almost exactly, and they're weird. So I don't know. I didn't need a handwriting, expert to look into that more, but it's questionable. But anyway, that note doesn't even exist. They took a picture of it and he burned it, the letter. So the letter's not even around to really do that with.
Yeah.
And the last part, and this is still being fished out, so I'm going to say allegedly. There's reports, at least, that he went to a steakhouse 2 hours and 45 minutes away from the UVU campus and is in a whole different town, whatever. And one of the employees and the boss, the owner of the place, both swear up and down that Tyler was there eating the steak left at 9:45 p.m. Which why that matters is on the text, allegedly, he said, well, I'm sitting here, I'm going to wait till about midnight, and if they don't clear away where I can go get the gun, then I'm going to leave and come home or whatever. Well, that's physically impossible. It was 2 hours and 45 minutes away from the campus. So if he was actually at the steak place eating steak or whatever, what he was doing there, then he could not have driven, even if he was doing 100 miles an hour, he couldn't have got back in time to do that. So he wasn't there where he says he was in the text messages, which again goes to the point that maybe they're manufacturing.
Right.
But we'll see over time. But
and for those of you who think that it's ridiculous and a conspiracy theory that the government would cover something like this up and set up a patsy, I refer you to Lee Harvey Oswald. For decades, they maintained he was a lone gunman, and we now know that's just not the case at best. And he may have actually,
right.
And
I want to be clear also. This is not, hey, we got to do what we can to get Charlie, to get Tyler off. If he has any involvement in it, I hope he hangs. If he did it, which I don't believe, I know he didn't do it the way they say, but if he was involved and there was others, I want them all to go down. If whoever was involved in the murder, I want them held accountable. I just don't want a patsy held accountable if he had nothing to do with it, or if he did have something to do with it and there was others, I want them too. So that's absolutely. Be clear. We're not trying to say, hey, we don't care who killed Charlie and we don't believe he could have been involved in any way. But the narrative that they put out is bullshit. That's simple. Sorry for cussing, but that's what it is.
No, I agree.
And so.
Well, I was horrified when I saw the shooting of Charlie Kirk. I didn't really know much what to think about him. Truly, I thought he was probably a big time servant of Israel. My introduction though to Kirk, I remember the first time I ever saw his face or heard his name. He was making a video during COVID, and it was about the shots. And so I had a lot of sympathy and a lot of appreciation for him already. I liked how he engaged with students and young people. Sometimes I didn't like how he was a little bit condescending when they would talk about before his waking up. When they would talk about Israel, he kind of fall into calling you an anti-Semite. I had some problems with Kirk, but I started off like him. And after his death, and I saw that he had woken up about undue Israeli influence on our government. They tried to exert their influence on him. Mm-hmm. He wasn't about to take it, and then he's dead.
Yes.
So, and I hate to even go into this, but some people are saying that he didn't really die that day. I don't know where to go with all that. I have seen a couple of things that trouble me, but I don't understand what would be the reasoning behind that, because the organization that he tried so hard to build up has now been they're betraying his legacy and taking Turning Point in a different direction that is very pro-Zionist.
Yeah, I'm also not on board with he's faked it, the Machiavelli, the death. I don't believe that, but the reasoning for that is if he had, and he did tell people in the days prior to that, I'm afraid they're going to kill me. Like, that's on text messages. Mm-hmm. But so if you really had a credible threat that whoever, whether it be Israel or whoever, even if it's just the left, and they knew there was big credit, and maybe that's why, but I don't buy into that theory. It's a possibility, but it's very, very slim. So I don't agree with that either, really. And I'm also not, I can't rule out the whole Charger thing because we've seen what they did with the beepers, and it's very possible, but again, I haven't seen enough proof to say definitively that is what happened. I believe he probably got shot, but not with the 30-06.
Have you seen the footage where his shirt does this weird movement?
Right.
I don't see how that's consistent with just a rifle shot. Something affects the shirt.
Well, I saw somebody, it may have been Alex Jones the other day, that said, or somebody, maybe it wasn't, that it could have been a weapon that we don't even know really much about. They've got high pressure type weapons that it could do that, and it going by would have blown the shirt up like that. And so, not a sound weapon, but there's different kind of pressure air weapons that could do that, and so who knows?
We do know if there was an exotic explosive or something like that, mm-hmm. that would explain why they would excavate the crime scene and fill it in with concrete, because that is supposed to leave very detectable residue in the soil around where it happened. And
there are pictures that I guess Candace got a hold of where there was definitely some foreign stuff in the SUV that they had thrown Charlie in. But again, I don't know.
And we'll never know because they cleaned it up.
Right. And
another crime, another crime scene they cleaned up.
Right.
Just like JFK, man. But even it makes JFK assassination look like a cakewalk to explain. Yep. This thing is a riddle wrapped.
Well, and don't forget that the FBI and Cash Patel shut down an investigation into anybody outside sources because the counterterrorism was wanting to look into Israel. They had a connection, and he said, "No, you're not going to do it," and threw a big old fit.
I think we had Tulsi Gabbard in favor of looking into foreign involvement, and
Joe
Kent.
Yes,
Joe Kent. They've both been run out.
Yes,
which is very alarming. So, in my opinion, some restaurant or business in Texas accidentally hung their American flag upside down, and some people were complaining about it. And I was like, well, maybe ironically, maybe this intentionally. That's the truth, and that is military code for distress, turning the American flag upside down. Mm-hmm. We're in more than that. We've got the threat of nuclear war. Mm-hmm. That's always been over our heads. Sometimes I'm quite amazed we're not all dead yet, as crazy as the people are who run our nations. And that's why I am refreshed, really, to see people, Republicans, kind of leaving the cult after this war and starting to question and say, maybe we need a new political party or a new political movement. Let's, America first, like with Massey, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Candace Owens, people like that, and Tucker Carlson, of course, being the inspiration.
Well, in the last, this weekend, I guess, as of today, 4 more U.S. soldiers have been killed over there dealing with this stupid Iran war. So we lost 4 more soldiers, which, again, we should not be involved in that war to begin with.
Not at all.
This is not a war that had any reason for us to be over there, but we are. And now 4 more U.S. soldiers dead. And while we're completely against that war, I think both, we do stand with the soldiers. And so that's a tragedy that any soldiers are dying.
That's 4 families that won't have a dad or a brother, or that might have been female.
And people say they know what they sign up for and all that, but this is not. There's a big difference in defending the United States and doing this. Indeed.
And if, that's, even though I'm so anti-war, that's really callous for people to say, oh, they joined the military, they deserve to die. Mm-hmm. No, they don't. As a matter of fact, the military has done things to protect this country. China and Russia have a military, folks. We got to have something.
Well, and while we're here, this is good a place to transition into anyway of soldiers being sent to die. Lindsey Graham passed away.
Yes.
And that's a big deal because, we don't like to speak ill of the dead. But let's be clear. There's a revisionist history going on now where they're trying to paint him as a patriot who did all the right things. He literally cost thousands of lives, whether it be our U.S. soldiers for sending them into wars or, all the people that have died in the wars that he started. And Lindsey Graham never met a war he didn't like. Him and McCain were the same way.
Yes.
And he wanted to represent Israel over everything, which he's very clear. If you go back and watch the footage of him, the main one that I saw was they were having the tornado that just destroyed a bunch of South Carolina homes. I think it's like 1,000 homes. And he came on Fox News on Sean Hannity's show, and Sean showed the footage of all the homes that, what do you have to say to your people in South Carolina that's been ravaged by this tornado? He's like, well, that's not good for them, but I'm here to talk about Israel, and then went into a whole rant about how we need to protect Israel. We need to do that. Like, what are you talking about? That is the last thing that America First people should do.
Right.
He is not America First. He never was, and that became clear after he passed away. Whether it was the heart attack or he was over there in Ukraine at a what do they call those things? The drone center.
Drone factory.
And the drone factory got blown up, and then his hotel got bombed too, allegedly.
Yeah.
So we don't really know, but I'm not saying he got killed over there. I'm not saying he died of the heart attack. I don't know. They say it's a heart attack, but either way, America was safer without Lindsey Graham.
America is now safer. I'm sorry.
Well, except for they just put his sister in there as a replacement, temporarily at least. And she doesn't know anything other than I'm just going to do what he would have done. Mm-hmm. But even Netanyahu came out on Meet the Press or something, talking about how great a friend he was to Israel. And
well, whatever blackmail they had on Lindsey to keep him in line, his sister is apparently aware of that.
Maybe. I think he genuinely loved to doing that for Israel and more. I don't think he had to blackmail him, but there probably was some. If you look at his alleged lifestyle, he never had kids, never was with a woman that's known, went to Disney by himself.
Yeah.
I don't know. But the point is...
Blackmail, bro.
Right. The point is we are safer without warmongers like that in charge.
Sorry to say it, but yeah. Brenda, Dale, thank y'all for watching.
We're about to get into that, the TCRP stuff, Dale, if that's what you came for.
Right.
What else you got besides the TCRP?
That's it.
So, I'm sure there's going to make some people mad with this, but hey, it is what it is.
That's what we do.
The TCRP, the Taylor County Republican Party, we just had an election. I think we lost like 6 of our people, 5 or 6 of our people.
I thought 5, but yeah.
Yeah, on head to head. Anyway, you were one of those that got voted out. Well, so this was about doing the bylaws, and then they came up with some complimentary rule package, which is not even how you're supposed to do the bylaws. It's supposed to be the bylaws and the rules are within it. But allegedly, this was done by Rich Sanders and Ryan. The bylaws, one did the bylaws and one did the rules or whatever. So what I understand from a close source, and I can't say firsthand knowledge, but what I can say is somebody said that Rich said that he used like Grok to come up with the stuff.
Yeah.
And then he sent it back to Ryan to look over it and change it and do whatever. And I don't think that ever got done.
Yeah.
Well, whatever happened, that bylaws and thing definitely got sent over to Joy Ellinger and Jennifer Bell for approval, because that new incoming group, they had the numbers that night to vote whatever they wanted into. So if they didn't want that, it wouldn't have gone through. So they had it ahead of time and knew about it at least. Well, there are so many problematic issues with this thing, and it does exactly what I said it was going to do. First of all, the bylaws, one of the things that went on, like in the bylaws, it says you can call a meeting, you got to give 7 days notice, and the other one that says 10 days notice, so they conflict with each other. That doesn't make any sense. The bylaws got rid of the oversight committee completely, which did a lot of good work. I mean, people, whatever, they wanted Dan out of power. That's what it was. And they'll admit to that. But there was good things that the oversight did to keep things moving and get things done a lot more efficiently. And then they not only got rid of that, they got rid of the resolutions committee completely. They made it an ad hoc thing, which is crazy because the resolution committee over the last 2 years is one of the most effective things we did. And the reason that they're probably worried about it was because we did censure Stan, but we don't have the numbers to censure anybody anymore because that group is never going to censure. And even Jay Hardaway even said that to me, the other day when I was talking to him. He's like, well, there's a certain group of people, talking about Jennifer and them, who will never censure him or anyone else like that that's in that group. And that's fine. We're not even talking about censure because Jay has done nothing to be censured. So far, I'll give Jay a lot of credit. He was there. He's, we'll see how things go. I'll call it balls and strikes right down the middle. But right now, he's much different than Stan.
For folks that don't know, Jay Hardaway is going to replace Stan Lambert.
Yes, as the HD 71 House rep. But anyway, we'll get back to Jay in a minute. But so this thing, and I told Ryan privately before this thing how bad it was and how much nonsense this thing was. Just to give you an example, we had 11 meetings a year. The TCRP met, the executive chairs met, and we got so much done in all those meetings. And one of the things that this stupid bylaws does is it knocks it down to quarterly. So we go from 11 a year to 4.
Yeah.
Which means nothing's going to get done. That's every 3 months there's going to be a meeting. So now you don't have any resolutions unless you got to bring them in front of the whole group. So they'll not be able to, and I'm talking about censure ones. I'm talking about actual resolutions. We did so much good for medical freedom and water, getting fluoride out of the water and the THC ban and many other things that we did that were big time things. And that's all pushed to the side now because they wanted to take out the resolutions committee, and Ryan is doing the bidding of Joy and them. I mean, that is what it is. I hate to say it, but that's, after seeing what happened that night, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And to the point where Dan got recognized to go up and try to make some amendments, Dan Pickens, and I guess they didn't like that either because he had been called up on there and he started his deal. Well, Joy Ellinger got up from her seat, kind of walked over away from the chairs, called out Ryan's name, and did this with her finger. Ryan, come here, like this. Like she was a mother disciplining a child that's acting like you're going to come get a spanking. I don't know. And Ryan went over there. Say what you will. I don't care what kind of numbers they had. Nobody's going to shake their finger at me like that and me just run over there.
Right.
I'd have told whoever the person was what they could do with that finger. But, the point is that just showed me like, wow, she really believes she's running everything. But why wouldn't she? They're giving them everything they wanted. Because if you remember back when all this was going down, I said, hey, if they get in, they're going to they've said it, we're going to put the party back where it was before, which was a party that did very little to nothing. They don't go out and they don't do any resolutions. They don't hold people accountable. They don't do anything. And that's all this bylaws and the rules helps facilitate that.
Yeah. So the local Taylor County Republican Party is going to go from one of the most active and notable standout parties in the whole state of Texas to just another do nothing, go along with the crowd.
And, I guarantee, and another thing that happened, we worked for 3 months to put in rules, beef up the rules for people who don't show up to the meetings that are supposed to be there. Like you get a certain amount and then you can be revoked and pulled out of there because you're not doing your job. And again, Fred didn't show up. I haven't seen Fred in the entire time.
He was never there when I was there.
That's 2 years he hasn't showed up. I don't even know why he ran for re-election again, because he's never showed up to a meeting the whole time I've been there. But we're not calling out every single person. I know Dell probably took offense to whatever that. I'm not even looping. Yeah, Dell's definitely came in on that side, but Dell's been here in the party. And he was the precinct chair of his precinct chair before. So my problem is not with Dell.
Right.
I like Dell. I've known Dell for a long time.
Yes.
But
and Dell is a viewer and a supporter and helped us with medical freedom back in COVID.
And I told Dell to his face that night, hey, what's up? How you doing? My beef is not with you. And it wasn't. And it's still not. Now, he did vote for that thing to go through, which I don't know, but he was far from the only one. So me, Lee, and Dan were the only people that voted against this monstrosity of, and it's not because, hey, I'm voting against Jennifer and them. I was voting because it's a terrible freaking
set of bylaws.
Yes, it was poorly written. It was not cleared up, and it's doing things that are going to hurt the party, which has been my main concern from the start.
Right.
So that's where we're at on that. And what they did to Dan was even more embarrassing because they recognized him, and I was trying to second his motion to bring amendments, at least to have him in front of the floor. And they had the votes. They could have let him say what he wanted to say and then voted it down anyway, and it would have stayed the same. Mm-hmm. But they didn't want to even do that and give him after he had been recognized by the chair, Ryan. So then Rich Sanders stands up and blows his gasket. Oh, he didn't get a second. We need to shut him down. Just lying because I was trying to give him a second from the start, but they didn't recognize my second and then Ryan said, well, I didn't see you. I said, well, that's not my problem. You recognized him. So you're breaking Robert's Rules of Order when you do that in all procedures. But it just goes to show you they had an agenda. They were going to push him through no matter what. Now I'm a little surprised some of the other guys like Mike and Tia and a few others that voted for this. They probably didn't read it or just didn't want to rock the boat.
Right.
Whatever. I love rocking the boat. I don't care.
If it's appropriate to do,
yes.
especially when the boat is on the rocks.
Yes. But anyway, that's done, and it's horrible, and it's going to completely hurt this party, and we're much less effective today than we were a month ago.
Yeah.
But that's what they wanted. Again, they made it clear we want to go back to the era of, Chris Carnahan, or before that even, whoever, Joy Ellinger, where they didn't do much of anything.
It was an inactive party.
Yeah.
Whereas that, for the brief time I served with you, there, I saw y'all do incredible things. Like the censure, Stan Lambert, you've got to hold your public representatives accountable. That's all y'all were doing for that. This downtown coup came down on us and took about half of us out.
Mm-hmm. And now, the survivors, they just completely took away any of the legit stuff me and Dan were doing. Like, even if you don't think the oversight was necessary, the resolutions was 100% necessary. And to say, oh, well, it's at. So that's another thing. When I got into Ryan about it, I was like, what are you doing? That's one of the most effective things we did. And his answer first was, well, join them. They didn't ask for the resolutions committee to go away. I did that. I said, first of all, don't lie to me. But second of all, I said, why would you do that? And his excuse was, well, we needed to make the resolution not a standing committee because I want to get out the vote effort and do the door knocking and let's help them get elected for 20. I said, Ryan, that doesn't make a lick of sense. And it doesn't, because if you go back to 2024, that party that I was involved in, we knocked on nearly 6,000 doors. There's like 55 plus 100 doors to help everybody, including Stan Lambert at the time. We were passing out his stuff.
Right.
All the Republicans were trying to help him get elected and help Trump and help whoever. All that we went 5,500 plus doors, and we had a resolutions committee then. We were passing resolutions during that. Because we passed the one on the fluoride in the water while we were doing the door knocking. It was in the same week. I remember that. So that's a lie by Ryan, period, because having a resolution standing committee for when resolutions come is not going to hurt any effort to get out the vote. Now, going down to 3 meetings from 11, that's going to hurt an effort to get out the vote.
My God.
But I don't know. The point is that it's not good. And it's not even about Joy or Jennifer or whoever else. Ryan completely bent the knee. That's all you can say.
And that really, pisses me off as I lost my seat because I was loyal to Ryan. Because
you were told point blank, the only reason we ran anybody against you was because you would refuse to let the other guy run against Ryan.
Right.
They didn't ask me because they knew my answer was no.
Right.
But it cost you your seat because they overreacted to some dumb stuff. But
people that agree with me on medical freedom, allegedly, I really don't get it. And that's one big problem. Kind of like the problem with the Datacenter protest yesterday. I don't think there was enough across the aisle reaching. I think people want to be in their echo chamber and make everything about Democrat or Republican.
Well, that's the crazy part. Like Jennifer, allegedly, if you go look at all the resolutions we passed in the resolution committee, except for the one censuring Stan, which he was vehemently opposed to because her best friend was Robin. But if you look at every other thing that we passed, that's something she allegedly would stand for. I haven't talked to her about the THC issue, but I feel like she would have been with us on that one. I know where she claimed to be about medical freedom, and we passed multiple things. I know where she was on the water and the fluoride. So why would you want to get rid of that again? That doesn't make any sense.
It does not.
And, Ryan said that they didn't call for that, but I don't believe it happened just randomly. You take that group out. They didn't want me because I was the last, me and Dell were the only surviving members of the resolutions committee right now. And, so I was probably in line to head the thing. The last member, Norm, had suggested that I be the head of it. And whether I was or I wasn't, it's not about me or my personal power. It's about how effective that was.
Right.
And to say, oh, well, we can just bring it back as needed. What do you mean? We're going to need it all the time. I myself am going to bring probably 10 resolutions over the next 2 years.
Yeah.
But again, a lot of other ones, I'm sure Jennifer and them will want to have some. And I would give them fair shake for that too. But If it makes sense and it's good, it doesn't matter whose idea the resolution is to me.
Exactly.
But so that's where we're at as far as that goes. And, I thought it was a disgrace how they treated Dan, because you can't literally just pull that off once you've already recognized them. That's not how the Robert Rules of Order work or the procedures. I thought it was a disgrace how Ryan handled it, and a disgrace how Rich handled it. I wasn't surprised by the other side. They doing what I already knew they were going to do, and I was a little bit stunned that some of the other guys that went ahead and voted for this thing, but it is what it is. They had the numbers to pass whatever they wanted to pass anyway.
Yeah.
So it is what it is again, but I just don't know why you would get rid of some of these things that don't help the party grow or become much less active. I will say that Judge Crowley was there. We kind of talked about that. I got to talk to him a little about the day centers. He swore us all in, and he said he'll meet with us. That's cool. And then Jay Hardaway was there, and I want to give him his due, because Stan, like I said, I've never met Stan in person. I don't think I've seen him one time, but he's never been to a Republican meeting, like just a random meeting that I can ever remember.
That's crazy.
And maybe years and years before I started coming around, but not lately, not in the last couple of years anyway.
Yeah.
So the fact that Jay was there and he didn't have to be, that says a lot.
Yeah.
I always say it's not a high bar to do better than what Stan did, but he passed this part for sure. Yeah. And not only was he there, and he wasn't just making an appearance, he literally stayed. Me and him were the last two people to leave.
Really?
So, and he sat after it was over with. He sat with me and not Darla. Yeah, Darla too, I think, for a minute. But then, who's the one that lost to Joy? Marta Halda. Marta and Tammy and Tammy's husband and Lynn Sanders and me were all standing there yakking it up for 25, 30 minutes about different things with Jay. And then that kind of broke down. They left, and then it was me and Tammy and her husband and Jay. And we talked again for a long time. And then they left, and it was me and Jay talking about many issues for another 25, 30 minutes probably. Mm-hmm. So, he put in the time. He was literally impressive on a lot of issues, and he knows a lot of the things that, like, you can tell it's a difference between him and where Stan was now. And one of the things he said to me was, hey, I'm going to come to Ryan and whoever else, probably Joy, and propose a group that is, I want an accountability group. And he said, I want it to be where y'all go in, you watch the votes, you watch what we actually do there, and then y'all bring it in and y'all come report it to the whole TCRP and say, here's what happened, here's how he voted on this issue, here's how he didn't vote, he voted right here, he voted wrong here, whatever, and do it for Jay. He said, I want it done for me, and I want to do it for Tom Sell. I'll leave it there. I guess Charles Perry would be the other one. But I think it's a good idea, and he claims he wanted me to be one of the leaders of that thing.
Yeah,
but,
you ought to be.
Well, yeah, but again, we'll see, because he may want that, but Joy and Jennifer absolutely don't want that.
Right, yeah.
But although I would call it balls and strikes, like I told him from the very start, when you do something right, I'm going to say it. When you do something wrong, I'm going to say it. I hope he succeeds well beyond my wildest dreams. I hope he's awesome.
Yeah.
And I'll say that if he is. But the fact that he'd actually propose a group like that.
Exactly.
That means something.
Kudos to where it goes, and that's Jay Hardaway.
And he actually said it again that day that he wants to come on this podcast too.
Indeed.
We just got to get a little better setup going.
Yeah, we're working on that, Jay. Give us some time.
So anyway, I don't know what Dell thinks of all that I said, but again, Dell, none of this is necessarily an attack on you. Out of all the ones that were coming into the new group over there, you were the least person I was worried about.
Right.
So, and we may not agree on everything, but that is what it is. But yeah, so I'm just so disappointed, not in the new people, because I knew where they stood, but in, our people, quote unquote.
Yeah.
The Ryan, how Ryan, I don't know. That just didn't make any sense, the way he's acting.
It's a shame that it's all went down like it has, because, Darla is the one that asked me to come into TCRP.
Well, she's also joined that group because she believes that they're going to, if she plays ball, they're going to do a lot of things for the party, and I haven't seen any evidence of that, but we'll see.
Yeah.
But I will say, as a country, one other thing that happened, they did. Caroline was the treasurer again, which she should be. She's been treasurer forever, and she's great at that. Susan got voted in. They ended up doing a package deal with those two and said, let's vote for Susan and Caroline together. So they voted, and Jennifer seconded it, first of all. When it got done, she seconded, and I guess she thought about it for a minute, and she had a different idea, probably herself, to be secretary.
Mm-hmm.
So then she tried to say, no, I don't want to. So, but at that point, she had already seconded it, and we got on with the vote, and she was the only vote against that package.
Yeah.
Which I think, again, she was not voting against Caroline. I think she just wanted to make herself the secretary, probably, or somebody she had in mind. But anyway, even Joy and all them voted yes on that one. But the vice chair spot, Ryan was trying to say Denise should be, and she's a huge medical freedom fighter and a great person. But I guess they had worked in the background. Her and Ryan had talked about making Dean, what's his name?
Michael Dean.
Yeah. And then he said his reasoning for changing that, he said, was, I think Michael will be more effective in the overreach head because he can do a lot more things.
Yeah.
And actually help the party, where that other one's very largely ceremonial. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they said, well, they were not for that. And so they pushed it off, which I guess under the new, what is this, July, August, September, October. So maybe in October, we'll have another vote for who's going to be the vice chair. Yeah.
From monthly meetings, the local Taylor County Republican Party is going to go down to 3 a year.
4
a year.
Quarterly. But yeah, it's down 7 from 11 to 4.
Yeah.
And if you get more than 1/4 of the precinct chairs, they can call a meeting if they all come together, or the chair can call a meeting whenever he wants. But we're scheduled for 4 now instead of scheduled for 11.
Yeah.
Which I don't even know where that came from, other than the only reason you do that is you would want the party to be less active and less effective.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is. I don't get it at all. And I told Ryan that. But yeah, so shout out to Jay. He was a star up there from the start to finish. Shout out to Judge Crowley, which we're going to go talk to him.
ASAP.
And I don't know. It's just sad what happened up there, but it is what it is. We'll see, what happens next. I'm not going anywhere. I'm way too petty to ever quit. So if they think they're going to run me out, they're mistaken.
Yes, indeed. And I just want to say again, regarding this data center protest, probably not being as big as it could have, this being such an unpopular issue. If you're on the left, right, wherever, let's get together and let's actually formulate a substantial party based on the issues instead of the partisan bickering. Right.
And you could also say, along with data centers, is the flock cameras.
Indeed, yeah.
That's another one that we can get together with, left and right, independent, whatever. Let's get together.
Not sending our money to fund
I believe there's 4 or 5 of them in Abilene already. I know for sure on the April 3rd of 23, the APD, the Abilene Police Department, put out a statement saying, in an effort to both prevent and solve crime, so the pre-crime nonsense, the APD has partnered with the Flock Safety to install 2 automatic license plate readers, which is what they call them to sound a lot nicer. Mm-hmm. But again, these things literally can track every move. Not only can they track people, faces, your motion, all that, but the amount of people that are being able to go in and on the back end and look into these and then track everyone. It's not just law enforcement. It's all kinds of governmental groups. Yeah. Like, it's a bad, bad thing for liberty. And I know we have one in the HEB parking lot, and I think there's one at a Walmart, but I'm going to work on trying to find out more about where all of them are. But indeed. Yeah, it's happening everywhere. So there are people, and we are not telling you to do this, but there are people going all over the nation right now and either cutting them down, the block cameras, or whatever you do. If you don't use a green laser and point it at it, because it could mess it up.
Yeah.
And we're not telling you to do that.
No, not at all.
But there are definitely people out there doing that.
Yep.
And because people are had it or tired of being spied on for no reason.
It sounds like the initial outcry and protest in the UK and England when they first started putting these flock cameras, a lot of folks would go out there with sticks and point them at the sky. Things that you just shouldn't do, folks.
Yeah. And we're not telling you to do anything because you could be arrested for any kind of stuff like that.
Indeed.
But it is happening all over the nation, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. And we certainly hope that enough of that doesn't happen, whereas the companies take a huge loss and stop trying to push this surveillance state on all of us.
Well, that kid is young that's in charge of this safety, the flock safety. He's young and he's already a billionaire, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm a big freedom advocate. I do get frustrated sometimes that, child goes missing somewhere. Mm-hmm. And I'm just always saying there's so many cameras everywhere. How can this happen? I'm sorry, I don't want surveillance, but I don't want kids being kidnapped either. So I see how they sell it to us as for our safety.
Yeah. But again, there's been cameras and stuff on all the Walmarts for years.
Yeah. They should already have cameras for their own security.
They have cameras. I got some idiot hit me at a turn. I was trying to turn one day in my old truck, and some guy with a long trailer came by and scraped me, and not even known it or didn't stop or whatever. And so I called the cops to report it or whatever. And the cops said, "Well, we'll look and see how many lights we can follow him through to see where he went." Nothing ever came of it, but the fact that that's the thing they could do already says they could do that already. They don't need all these invasive tyranny flock cameras.
Well, and of course, the surveillance agenda is very real. We know that all the new cars coming out in 2027 are mandated to spy on you and have internal cameras and decide whether your excitement level or intoxication level you cannot start your car if it does not like how you're looking or acting.
Yeah.
I think manufacturing companies are going to take a huge loss over that. I think the flock companies are going to take huge losses because I think people aren't going to put up with this. They know what's going on. The data center uprising has been so big. I have a lot of hope for humanity right now.
Yeah, when I was talking to Jay the other night outside, I said the worm has turned on a couple issues. The data centers, probably the flock cameras, definitely THC and Israel.
Yeah.
And those are just, if you actually look at the polling and everything, the public has had enough of that, whether it be Democrat, Republican, or independent. It's across the board.
Right.
And I said the Republicans better get their butt in gear on these 4 issues or they're going to lose. And he pretty much agreed with me. He said, yeah, these are all issues that people need to address or at least get going in the right direction on that stuff.
Yeah. Well, people used to say, hey, it's a free country. Mm-hmm. We want people to be able to say that again. And you can't be a free country when you're sending all your money to another country or when you're banning a plant that grows out of the ground. You drive 3 miles, not 3 miles. If you drive 3 hours west, for those of you who aren't aware, and cannabis is legal in New Mexico completely. It's like alcohol. You walk in, you show your ID, and you're able to buy it.
Right.
You can't keep a lid on that can. People here in Texas are facing complete bans.
Well, that's the thing. We didn't mention it, but they already announced their next session. The Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick and Charles Perry, our stupid senator, has already said we're going to come back and try to ban these things again. Here we come for the THC again. And they already went around the right way to do it because they got shut down by the governor last time in the session because nobody wants to do that. They went and got the Department of Health and Safety to end around and start illegally unelected bureaucrats just passing different forms of shutdown on the regulations. That was ridiculous. But that's not even good enough. They're going to come back and try to fully ban it again. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing we talked about what the resolutions did. We had a resolution opposing a full ban. because it doesn't make any sense. And it passed, 16-2, something like 14-2.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even close, and that's in the conservative Republican Party.
Right.
But they're going to do it. And then Perry the other day, when he's on at one of those conferences, he goes, "Well, I know this: the alcohol lobby is sure upset that they're losing their shares to the THC. I don't know what that means." Well, I do. It's very clear. They're jealous they had competition that's a lot safer if you actually look at it than alcohol ever was. And they don't want it. And they're paying good money to Dan Patrick and probably Charles Perry. I know Dan Patrick.
It's the alcohol lobby and it's the drug, pharmaceutical lobby.
Big Pharma, too, is 100% because they also buy all the veterans and people who come and they use that to self-medicate themselves versus being on the pill factory all day long.
Yeah, they don't want you using Mother Nature. They want something that'll give you 13 side effects because they've got a pill for all those too.
And so, it was just but we're going to have to gear up and fight that too again because they're going to try to pass. We'll see where Jay comes down on that. I asked him about it. I said, I'm going to need an answer from you. And he said, well, I think I owe a phone call to Charles Perry first, and I said, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, indeed.
Get in line with what you got to, but if you come out for that ban, he's not going to like what I have to say about it.
Right.
But yeah, that's all I have really.
I was going to kind of say, and I do plan on, somebody, has been really after me to talk about the Epstein files. And I think I should broaden that, human trafficking, the Epstein files, reports on all that are coming up.
Yeah. We've got nothing to hide on that. I thought the way that the Trump administration handled it was horrible.
Indeed.
Trump handled it horribly, and Pam Bondi handled it horribly, and the FBI handled it horribly.
Right.
There's a lot of criticism to go around. Now, don't make any mistake. A lot of the people on the left that were crying about it now really wanted to just get Trump with it, and they said nothing during the Biden years. I did. So I don't care who's in charge. I wanted it out. And I want the people who did it who still have not been brought to justice.
And we're told through the schools and stuff that human trafficking is this epidemic and this huge problem. In this day and age of technology, I don't think that can be happening without a lot of corruption going on in law enforcement. We have got to reduce or stop this as best we can. Yes, I want to talk about the Epstein files, but more importantly, stop as much of the trafficking that is currently happening as we can. People have got to be aware, watch your surroundings, because it's probably happening right in front of you. It's probably going right down I-20 here.
Mm-hmm. For sure. I wrote full articles about all the human trafficking that was coming over the southern border. It's not just the Epstein, it's everywhere, and a lot of that was facilitated under Biden with the 20 million people that came here.
Right.
So, and I don't care where the trafficking comes from. I'm against it.
Right.
So
I do think it's a positive thing that, this whole thing about child abduction and even sacrifice. We're seeing that some of this stuff looked like it was a kind of a cult related.
It's in the files.
And I need to become more of an expert on that. I know a lot more about the Midwestern style of the satanic pedophile drug trafficking nexus that happened in Nebraska. Of course, the state senator, John DeCamp, wrote a book on that, because he was told to by his friend, the ex-head of the CIA, there was what was his name? William Colby, told him to write a book. And so he did. And that book will shatter your soul. So this is a lot bigger than Epstein. I think we need to become a more compassionate and alert country. This stuff does happen in the trailer parks, but it also happens on Madison Avenue. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where the
Tijuana happens everywhere.
Indeed. So yeah, more upcoming about the Epstein files, human trafficking. Of course, the data center battle continues with some victories and some defeats happening all around us.
Yep. Make sure you go get the July issue. Once again, you can read all about the data centers.
That's the July issue of the Buffalo Gap Roundup.
Yeah, and if we have anything to say about it, there will be a follow-up in August.
Right. And if some of you are bashful about joining our group, America First Abilene on Facebook, friend Chris and I privately, we're looking to put together a rally. And I kind of envision a rally, not so much against data centers, but maybe for something like freedom, like our opposition to data centers, our opposition to flock cameras and all that is really a way of saying we are for something. We are for your privacy. We are for the American way, which is in great danger. And that's why we have both kind of broken up outside of the Republican Party to talk about America First.
Yes.
So join us, follow us, America First Abilene on
Facebook, X, Twitter, or that's the same thing, X, Rumble, and YouTube for now. And we'll probably work on some other things down the line, maybe even a website. But
absolutely.
Right now, we're just still rolling it out slowly.
Indeed. Well, we want to thank you for watching. As Charlie Kirk said, keep asking questions because that's the only thing that keeps us free. And Chris and I are going to follow the truth wherever it leads.
Yep.
God bless you and good night.
Good night.